Today we will talk about the hidden meaning of a children's bedtime story. Remember the plot. Pinocchio is a wooden puppet brought to life by a fairy. He dreams of becoming a real boy. Through adventures and lessons about honesty and courage, he ultimately achieves his desire by proving his worth and gaining awakening. His name is derived from the Tuscan language and it means pine nut, the edible seed found in pine cones. Hidden in this symbol there are numerous esoteric allusions: the pine tree as a metaphor of immortality, the pineal gland as the third eye, a pine cone crowning the two intertwined snakes in the caduceus of Hermes. From the beginning, we know that Pinocchio is a marionette. The rough piece of wood from which he's created suggests the prima materia alchemica, the base material required for the magnum opus, the alchemical great work of inner transformation, or the rough ashlar, the cornerstone present in the Freemasonry tradition. Geppetto embodies the figure of the alchemist and artifacts, creator of himself, his true self. He's also the father, the old king, the personification of the mystical tradition in the figure of Hermes Trismegistus. On the same line, the talking cricket is the voice of conscience. At a different level, it is the personification of those behavioral and social norms that guide us towards a socially acceptable but spiritually sterile life. In fact, the early part of the story shows clearly a rebellious Pinocchio who wants to free himself from social conventions and moral codes. Many magical places attract attention, as the schoolbook or the puppet theater. The field of miracles, for example, symbolizes the fertile alchemical soil prepared for the great opus to take place. This is a description of a personal and spiritual transmutation through awakening. The White House, the city of Catchfools, Toyland, the island of the busy bees. All these metaphorical places are parts of the inner landscape of Pinocchio the alchemist. The school book or the spelling book recovers the theme of the alchemist's working alphabet, which is just a dead letter if it is not put into practice. The animals appearing in the story suggest instinctual aspects in Pinocchio's nature, his natural intelligence becoming an ally along his journey. The puppet theater covers the idea of the world where human beings are seen as puppets, a metaphor for man's inner slavery, as in Plato's myth of the cave. The conception of the human being as a puppet, manipulated by strings from a hidden being that composes the script of life, goes back to the Upanishads. In the Mahabharata, the analogy consists of the reference to wood as the raw material from which the world is made. Thus, the creator, the demiurge, is a carpenter. As soon as Pinocchio the puppet can move, he realizes that he is pulled and dominated by passions, instincts, and desires. He begins to feel hunger, thirst, and cold. He does not want to do things that put him in a position of discomfort. It is in the puppet theater that Pinocchio comes to understand for the first time his existential condition, that he is a puppet. Remember Neo from Matrix. Neo, you are a slave. Mangia Fuoco, the theater director and puppet master, as a terrifying image, is the personification of fear, the guardian of the threshold barring the way to the spiritual traveler. In a different key, he acts as an awakener, the personification of willpower. And it is in front of Mangia Fuoco that Pinocchio makes his first act of will by offering to sacrifice himself in the sacred fire. Thanks to this selfless act, he is rewarded with 5 gold coins, metaphors of inner gold or the inner fire. The cat and the fox are forces which try to lead Pinocchio astray from walking the straightforward path, much like in the beginning of Dante's Divine Comedy. For instance, they lead him through the dark forest into the first initiatory trial. At a given time of the story, we see Pinocchio hanging on a giant oak tree. This is his first death trial. Alchemically speaking, it is a leap into the abyss, the entry into the nigredo or the blackening phase. The 4 alchemical steps, the development of black, white, yellow, and red, can also be found in the Physicae Mystica of Pseudo-Democritus, which is often considered to be one of the oldest books on alchemy. The act of hanging transforms Pinocchio into a different being as it reconnects him to the root of his life, the great oak tree which lifts him up from the ground, the material plane. This image reminds us of the hanged man in the tarot cards. Only through a radical change of perspective and the complete abandonment of an obsolete mode of being can self-transformation occur. At the end, we assist at the completion of the alchemical great work, the philosopher's stone, the philosopher's gold. Pinocchio is not a puppet anymore. Until next time, keep the myths alive.